Warning, distressing images. It has been another horrific year for pain, misery and starvation in the Gulf nation of Yemen. Millions of its starving people are hoping it could all come to an end this week. A civil war has been tearing the impoverished and famine-stricken country since 2015 when Houthi fighters seized the presidential compound in the country's capital Sana'a and overthrew the government. It was then that a Saudi-led coalition, backed by Australia and the US, stepped in and, after 3 years of chaos, the fighting has pushed much of the country to the brink of famine. Now, more than 22 million of its 29 million people are in need of aid. 8 million do not know how they will obtain their next meal. It seemed like the Western world didn't care until the high-profile death of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, when the US and its allies suddenly began to condemn what was happening in Yemen. Since that brutal murder took place, both sides of the bloody conflict have come to the table and agreed on an immediate ceasefire, which will actually come into effect tomorrow. The fragile truce was secured after week-long negotiations in Sweden, which were the first Yemen peace talks since 2016. However, there are now serious doubts as to whether the historic agreement will carry any weight at all after horrific scenes have begun to emerge from the crucial Red Sea port city of Hodeidah overnight. The city, which is home to more than 2.5 million people, is the entry point for more than 75% food, medicine and supplies coming into Yemen, meaning the country's starving population needs the fighting there to stop. However, at least 12 people have died and 25 others have been wounded on both sides as a brutal skirmish erupted within the under-siege city on Sunday, according to officials. For all the talk of ceasefires, condemnation and peace deals, fighting in the city has intensified dramatically in recent months. The violence is stemming from a tense standoff in which the Sunni Muslim Saudi-led coalition are refusing to let the predominantly Shia Houthis retain control of the city. The coalition is accusing Iran of smuggling in arms to support the Houthis through the port. Analysts say if the fighting stops in Hodeidah, then the peace deal stands a chance of success and millions of lives could be saved. Hodeidah is the litmus test for the Sweden talks, analyst Hisham Al-Omaisi told The Guardian. The parties have agreed to withdraw to the city limits and for a reorganization of military units and local security forces. But this is Yemen and nothing is that simple. For example, the Houthis have recruited a lot of locals in the city. Are they supposed to vacate their homes now? The wording of the agreement has been purposefully vague to get the parties to agree. But it's going to be very hard to gauge what success will be like as a result. Speaking on Sunday at Doha, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned that if Yemen's humanitarian situation does not improve, 14 million people there will be in need of food aid in 2019, 6 million more than this year. There is a high level of hunger in Yemen, he said. The fact that famine was not yet declared does not in any way diminish our huge concern with the very high level of hunger that exists in Yemen, with a number of people dying in very dramatic circumstances. Last week, an international group tracking Yemen's civil war reported that the conflict has killed more than 60,000 people, both combatants and civilians, since 2016. The figure, which did not provide a breakdown of those killed, is much higher than the UN figure of 10,000 civilian deaths, and has added to the urgency to find a political resolution for the 4-year bloodletting. The new death toll figure of 60,000 for Yemen came from the US-based Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, or ACLED, which said in a report on Tuesday that more than 28,000 people, both civilians and combatants, were killed in the first 11 months of 2018, an increase of 68% from 2017. More than 3,000 were killed in November, the deadliest month since ACLED started collecting data. The group said 37% of the total number of civilians killed in Yemen in 2018 died in Hodeidah, with AP